Hello, this is Sharon Lishman with Duwamish Alive Coalition on Rainier Avenue Radio, introducing our local environmental program, Duwamish Alive. We believe Earth Day is every day, and understanding our natural world that we live in is critical not only to the health of our environment, but that of our communities as well. We are all connected. And so previous podcasts, we've been talking about different aspects of our Duwamish River and its watershed. And so today we're just very, very gratified to have our special guest, Tom Reese, who is an award-winning photojournalist and author of several books. One of his books is Once and Future River, Reclaiming the Duwamish. So welcome, Tom. So happy to, I know.
Great to be here.
Yeah. We obviously know each other.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you've been just connected to this river for so long. And I'm just wondering what really drew you to the Duwamish in the first place?
Oh, gosh. Well, kind of the same things that would draw most people to the river when you see it for the first time, because you think, well, first of all, oh, there's a river in Seattle, really? And what's this place all about? And then to have a look at it, you think, what happened here? And it's really a matter of kind of being so curious about the answers to that question that just sort of led me on and on and on, because every turn you take and to figure out what actually happened here in history and what's going on, at the moment, that was basically enough curiosity to keep me going, because there's so many fascinating aspects of this place, and it's also very hopeful once you get through your initial impressions of a river that's not what you'd like it to be, probably, when you see it, or what you'd like to think of as a river, really, when you first encounter it.
So what are some of those major aspects that really talked to you and drew you in? Because this is not a river that, especially back in the day, that you would like, oh, wow, I'm interested in this. Most of the people are like, oh, don't look out the side of the door at that.
Well, that was deliberately what you were supposed to take away from the river for so long, because people knew that it was like, it had been mistreated, and, all of the natural habitat had been destroyed, or, 98, 97, 99% of it was gone. And then what was there, now, for a long time was, industrial waterfront that was, offered nothing to wildlife or anything like that. And yet it's full of life. And that's what shocked me. You look around and the birds are incredible, and those marine mammals, and on and on and on. And then you go, oh, and there's salmon, and this is a salmon spawning river. And you go, what?
There are still a lot of people that are surprised at that.
Yeah.
Especially when you say there's all 5 species of salmon, including the Chinook. They're really surprised.
Yeah. It's really, it is full of surprises, because the more time you spend there, just taking it in and looking around and noticing things, it really is full of life, and that really is something you just can't let go of, really, because you see one thing and you go, well, wait a minute, this is an ecosystem, and all these life forms, the plants and the animals, and then humans included with, nature since we were such a part of it, and you have to remember that that's where this is where we live, this is where they live, and it's an ecosystem that's grown up and growing up around humans and all the impacts that humans have had and still have.
Yeah, and I have to say that's what I loved about your book, is that it's not just about it's not just about the river necessarily, but it's about the complexity and the diversity, which also includes these really wonderful community members and the events and their cultures,
Right.
and I mean just the diversity that you tell the story so beautifully through your photographs.
Yeah, good. Well, that was the intent, but also, and also to show, both the really beautiful aspects of it and the parts that are very, very real, and then we really think we don't want to see, but then when we see them, we think, well, we should do something about that, and then you kind of follow that thread.
So, you've been connected for so long in such a deep way. What has surprised you over the years?
Oh, how little I really know.
Really?
Yeah, because when you think of yourself telling a story, you think, well, maybe I should go find this thing and fill in this chapter or this little item of information, and you can go to the river and just really almost sure you can find it, and then all of a sudden, no. But there's something even more fascinating there, and so it's a matter of letting go of expectations in some ways. Just let it surprise you, because it hasn't ended for me. I mean, after all these years, there's still so many things that I would not have anticipated, and I couldn't have pre-planned.
Well, and it's always changing.
There's that, yeah.
Even if you go to one spot, like, I've been going to certain spots for well over a decade, and I'm amazed at how they've changed.
Well, that's right. And then you remember, well, it's a river. It's so dynamic, regardless of all the efforts to, tame it and keep it the way people think it should be. It's still, you can never completely tame it. And if you have a little window of opportunity for these plants to grow here that weren't here before, and there's an opportunity for the salmon to use those places, well, time and time again, people have done projects say, we finished it, we opened it, and here they came right away.
Yeah. I think when you give nature the opportunity, nature will come back.
Yeah, that's not a question in my mind anymore, because I've seen it, and people know that.
Yeah.
And so that's what keeps projects alive, because they know that it's a lot of work, but in the end, it's going to be, even a little positive thing is going to be worthwhile, because that's the other thing about it too, is that when you know what the river was like, what it's becoming, then there's room for hope, because it really is getting better and better and better as time goes on and people take care. So that's another reason to think, this is worth, following.
Yeah, and that's what I hear from other people. It's like that it is a river of hope, and it shows what if you care for nature, nature will respond in really positive ways. Yeah. But I have to say, so the photographs in your book are so wonderful, and I'm so appreciative of you putting together the Green Duwamish River photo exhibit, which is at the Tukwila Community Center now. It's free to the public. You just have to go to the center, and it is a beautiful exhibit that takes you from the headwaters all the way down to Elliott Bay. And one of my favorite photos of yours, I love this photo, is the one of, so can we just have the photo and not us speaking? Is this photo of, I call it morning on the Duwamish, where it's obviously I love it because the river is waking up, and and it's the mouth of the river, but you can see Mount Rainier in the distance, which is where the headwaters are of the river. So this is a river that is, a lot of people don't know that it's like 67 miles long.
Right.
So I'm just amazed. How did you think about, like, oh, I should get at dark early, see what's happening on the river?
Well, I mean, it's given the time, there are places you think this might happen if you came back at the right time and the weather was good and all that sort of thing. And then, this is the view from the South Park Bridge, right after sunrise. And so you can, start to see the rays of sun on the mountain. But then, so the foreground, though, this is during salmon spawning season. And right down the bottom there in the middle is a salmon heading up the Duwamish River, jumping out of the water. And you go, what? I guess it's true. But it's also in the middle of like 3 different super fun cleanup sites. So on the left is, that's where Boeing Plant 2 used to be, and Jorgensen Forge, which is gone now. And the right-hand side is the marina in South Park. And just beyond that is the new Duwamish River People's Park, it just blows me away. And it's one of my favorite places, to go now. And it's really accessible. And if you want to see the river in all its glory, that's a really good place to go first. So that's recently restored. It's I think it's the largest, restoration habitat in forever.
Well, at least in the Duwamish.
Yeah. And it's incredible because the salmon come in there and they use it, and the birds come back. There's an osprey nest that I've seen some years. The osprey come back, and so that scene is sort of a little bit of everything with the Duwamish right there. So,
and I really loved how it's owned by the port, and I loved how the port really invited the community to participate in the planning of it.
Right. Yeah.
So I agree. It's a great place to start. And there's a lot of signage that's very informational. And the fact that there's a lot of things that were used to construct it that were our secondhand uses of other items. It's got a great story.
It does, and especially when you know what it came from, which was a Superfund site that was very polluted. One of the worst landscapes on the river, and it's now it's a beautiful park.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be one of my favorite photos of yours.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and then and again, it's amazing how, like, the Duwamish, right? It's one whole river, the Green Duwamish. So the next photo is of the Green River. And maybe you could, where is this in the Green? Because I wasn't quite sure. Is that in the gorge?
It's close to the gorge. It's I'm not going to remember the name of the exact spot, but there's a sort of a private campground. I can't come up with the name of it right now, but there's a trail. You can walk by there's a waterfall, and it's just sort of a peek of what the rest of the Green River Gorge is like, because it's just like you said, that's quite a contrast to the other scene. And this is further up where, the water is just starting to come down the valley, and it hasn't been through the industrial part yet. And salmon spawn up here. So,
and I have to say, it's incredibly beautiful.
It is.
I mean, the photos, they're just incredibly beautiful, and you would never guess it's the same river.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah. And so for people who are interested, this is, we're talking about the area around Auburn, you know, and above.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of great, and just keep it with the photos, it's fine. There's a lot of great hiking that's really
Yeah, right.
beautiful. And there's, and I think, what is it? The Flaming Geyser
Yeah, state
Park.
park.
Yeah, it has trails that you can hike down to the river. So it's a very different experience.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
So yeah. So, and this is where most of the salmon spawning grounds are in this
Yeah,
area,
that general
right?
area, right? Yeah. And even in Flaming Geyser, you can see when the salmon spawning season is, and they come back in several different species, and they'll spawn. Where you can see them there. Yeah.
Now I will say, Flaming Geyser, the flame no longer. The flame has been extinguished.
Yeah.
So it's just the name now. But there's also salmon that are coming from the hatcheries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the next photo. Do you want to talk a little bit about this? I love this one, especially when I finally learned, like, oh, thank you for explaining this to me.
Well, yeah. So that's a juvenile salmon, and it's not going up upstream. It's being flushed down out of a pipe, and this is one that's been raised in a hatchery at Sioux Creek, and it's after it's been tagged. So they raise all the small fish until they're juveniles, and then they are set free in the river eventually. But they've been tagged and clipped. They clip off the back of the adipose fin so that they can identify where these fish go and which ones come back. But this is sort of just a human process of tagging fish, and then they're all in a big tub, and then they become part of the river again, but they have to go through the pipe system and back into the runs and raceways, and then back into the river eventually. So lots of human hands-on fish production, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they're basically helping keep those, the salmon population.
Hedges about numbers and trying to keep. I mean, they're not wild fish, so they're hatchery fish, and there's a big distinction. But this was, the hatcheries were the idea that this is the way to solve the problem, that when there weren't enough for as many fish coming back, and we were afraid of losing them all, and so this was one of the solutions. Of course, better habitat is a huge solution to trying to keep the runs alive. So,
and a lot of the significant reduction in salmon population has been due to the industrialization and urbanization and agricultural uses and all that. It's really human based in many ways.
Yeah. Well, there's so much. And then there's all the factors that affect fish during the rest of their lives. They spend it out in the ocean, and climate change, warming waters, and where are the things that feed the fish while they're out there. That's all part of a huge equation about trying to tease out how populations decline.
And I will say, as we move on to the next, salmon really are a keystone species, and other species, a lot of other species depend upon them. And this, as you mentioned before, this river really is filled with wildlife. And I love that. And this is something I didn't know. I didn't know we had so many river otters.
Yes.
Which has got to be the most playful wildlife on the river.
Yes, likely so. Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. When you create a project that benefits salmon, you're benefiting the rest of all the life in the ecosystem, and these river otters, these are pups. So there's 3 river otter pups here, and they're cruising down in front of the mouth of Longfellow Creek. So they're in the Duwamish right there, and they stopped by curiously when I had the camera down there looking. I had the camera underwater at the end of a long pole and trying to see what's down there. And they, I saw them coming, and I froze and tried to, manifest as a broken piece of concrete and just fade into the background and see what happened. And they swam right by, and they had a look, and they were following their mother, as this is, what is often the case in that time of the year. They're just, they haven't been around for very long, and now they're out in their what's going to be their future habitat and getting a look and trying to figure out what this place is about. So, yeah, I felt incredibly lucky, and other things too, just to have been able to, have a camera to look at what they actually do underwater.
And they're so unusual, and there are several places, because don't they live in kind of one area, and and I know that they're in Ham Creek, that area by the river, and another one by, I believe it's right between Duwamish Gardens and Chinook Winds.
Yeah, there's another
up into
family in there that has a den. Yeah, there's probably quite a few more. I know the zoo has done a lot of work following river otters and figuring out what they are doing and what their health is like, because they are sensitive to pollution, and so following them and their prospects, a lot of people think they're a nuisance. A lot of people will defend them to the end, and but we do know, that they're around, and they there's families probably every year in most of those places you mentioned.
So what are your other favorite wildlife that you see along the river?
Oh my gosh. Well, you have to love the osprey, because they're incredible. And so they choose the Duwamish River to build their nests in every year, and this is their big nesting area. And then they seasonally they go back to Central America, South America, and spend that part of our winter there, and then they will come back in the spring and they have nests and have chicks, and they're very successful usually in having 2 or 3 fledglings that survive, at least initially, in the nests that are right there in the middle of parking lots and all these other places. Of course, the nests now are built on platforms because we had to provide those sites because everything else has been destroyed, so they couldn't do that anyway. But there's a pretty big number that come back, especially along the river, every year.
Yeah, that I'm glad you mentioned them, because this river, there's certain areas on this river that are great for birders if you want to watch birds.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of these species are migratory.
Yeah.
And they're using this river as either their home base in the summer, or as they're passing through. So these natural areas along the river are important for them to feed and rest as they move up or down, whichever way they're going. And a lot of them are going to Alaska. I mean, they're Alaska to South America.
Yeah. Well, they have limited choices about the ways that they can come through an urban area like this. I mean, if you think of it as a green corridor with habitat that they can rest in safely and feed in on their way, like you said, back and forth. And there's, the river is the place. If I were a bird, I mean, I would. That's where I would choose, because the options are so much better than, because there isn't really. There are creeks and other little green islands that I'm sure they have a choice over, but as far as a continuous possibility of surviving in a place like that. That would, yeah, the river's the best.
Yeah, and the other bird, which the next photo shows, which I really love, is the great blue heron, and I love this photograph because it's kind of that intersection of wildlife and recreation. My hope is that those folks are maybe picking up trash. I don't know.
They are. This is their cleanup event. That's exactly why they're there. They wanted to go pick trash out of the river, you know, which is amazing. The people who live there, but
it's fun. And then you see, you also see the stormwater pipe, and a lot of people, when you see the water coming off your property and going down the storm drain, it doesn't just magically go away. It goes into the river, or it goes into Elliott Bay. It goes somewhere, and it pretty much all winds up in Elliott Bay or the Salish Sea.
Yeah, some of it's treated, but most of it, and that's the biggest source of pollution still on the river is stormwater. It used to be, the industries that for so long just dumped, things that they didn't want, all their waste, and that's what really did the river in for so long. But now it's, some of that, is still happening in smaller ways than it used to. But stormwater is really the issue now, because that's, like you said, that's where the water winds up, and everything that's in the water, all the pollutants from, fertilizers to all the things that accumulate on our streets and parking lots and everything that goes into the storm drains. That's the real issue to deal with.
Yeah, and we've had Puget Soundkeeper Alliance on, and she really covered a lot of that. But that photo really shows, it kind of brings it home that this is where it's going.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, so still.
Yeah. So, do we have time for one more? Or, no. Okay. So anyway, I want to thank you because I get the signal. Okay. Thank you so much, Tom, for sharing your photos with us. And I do encourage everybody to go down to the Tukwila Community Center and view the whole exhibit, which is over 50 odd photos. This is Sharon Lishman with Duwamish Alive Coalition on Rainier Avenue Radio. And I want to just give a shout out to please support this radio station. It's a community radio station, and we all chip together and support these kind of things. So please go to Rainier Avenue Radio.world/donation, and even like a donation of $5 a month is helpful. So as a community, we need to support each other. So thank you again. And we will see you on the next broadcast.